Well, I try not to cuss much on here, but holy shit, what a day we had. Today was unreal. A trifecta of game sixes, two dramatic games, and then we had a dud, obviously, but that's okay because the other two were so good. The Lakers take care of business. They close out the Rockets. It wasn't close really at all. So that game, was our dud of the night, which is completely acceptable when we had two unreal games. One was historic and one was dramatic at the end with an incredible finish in Toronto. Let's start with the first game of the night, which was Orlando at home against the Detroit Pistons. A game that started off tight, and then Orlando took control. The Avalanche came on. It looked like with the crowd, with the way the Magic were playing, you were like, oh, damn. I had, text chains going on with buddies of mine who were already thinking Orlando could win the East, right? Because they looked that good. They were up 22 at halftime. It looked like they were in the driver's seat, ready to go, just hold the lead, and it's a wrap. Detroit looked lifeless. Then suddenly the third quarter happened. And in the third quarter, the Detroit Pistons scored 24 points, and the Orlando Magic had 11. That's right, just 11 points. So that lead was, significantly, they won that quarter by 13 points. So at that point, Orlando was heading into the fourth up 9. So a little bit of tension. You're feeling it because you're like, man, we were up by a lot. We were up by 22 at halftime, but you're still up 9. This is when you tell your guys, hey, be smart here. Just lock down defensively so you can buy yourself possessions to create shots, get to the paint, get fouled, be smart. But suddenly the Pistons turned it on. Defensively, the Magic were just also sloppy, and Detroit started making their push. Cade Cunningham, unreal. I mean, this guy, we've been saying it this whole series, he's the one guy for the Pistons that has clearly showed up. And if you're the Pistons, a young up-and-coming team who should be essentially thinking that they're here now, this is the guy that you want to know as a playoff riser, right? Because he is your franchise guy, no doubt about it, right? If Tobias Harris was the guy that was showing up for you in all these playoff games and Cade was struggling, you're not going to build around Tobias Harris. But Cade is your guy. That is concrete. The guy plays hard. He shows up, puts up numbers, and he rises up to the occasion, okay? Jalen Duren, still not great. 8 points, 9 rebounds. That's it. But you know what? Cade was so good, and you had role guys that came in. Dennis Jenkins had 19 for the Pistons. And again, Cade took this game over. And then once he took it over, the other guys started making shots, and it just trickled from there. Tobias Harris, 22 points. He played great as well as a supporting cast member. Didn't shoot the ball well. But, once Cade got it going, like I said, then it just freed everybody else up, including Tobias Harris. Look, and for the Magic, Paolo, yes, he's younger. But, these guys, once that lead started slipping, you could sense it. It almost felt like they panicked. Like they were like, oh man, it's getting too close. We're only up 6 now. Let me try to hit a 3 to push it back up to 9. And it just wasn't smart basketball. Okay. Even when they lost the lead, okay, you lose the lead, composure. All right. You're not going to get, when you're down 4, you're not going to get it all back with one shot. There's not a 4-point shot in the NBA. So be smart. If you have a 2, take it to the hole, get a couple free throws. You slowly but surely. And the Magic just didn't do that. Those last 4 minutes, it just was panic time. They ended up missing 23 straight field goals in the fourth quarter. Legitimately did not score a bucket for 45 real minutes. Yes, that's correct. For 45 real minutes, the Orlando Magic didn't score a bucket. And like I said, the Pistons capitalized. And look, having a bad quarter is sure, it happens, right? I mean, the third quarter for Orlando was terrible. They lost a quarter 24-11. They only put up 11 points. But the second quarter, the Pistons only put up 12 points, and the Magic put up 35. So again, it happens, right? Like if you're the coach, you tell them, hey, okay, you're up 9. You had a bad quarter. The Pistons had a bad quarter too, right? So all things even, and you still have a 9-point lead. So take control of this fourth quarter. Just it's 0-0. Just take control of this fourth quarter. And then at the worst case scenario, if they played it even, they would have won the game. But no, they lost the fourth quarter 31-8. So the Magic put up a total of 19 points in the second half. In the whole second half, 24 minutes of basketball, you put up 19 points. So yikes. Yeah, a big time yikes for Orlando. Opportunity slipped right there. Again, I mean, they were up 3-1 in this series. You go to Detroit for game 5, and honestly, you played them tight there at the end. It was getting kind of close, but, Detroit had that game. They had their game. It was game 5 back in Detroit. That's fine. When you're coming back home, you were up over 20 points at halftime. This is your moment. And it just didn't happen for them. And now they got to regroup. It seems like the series is over, honestly. It's just like, wow, they lost. Their season's done. But we've seen this with Orlando, right? They went up to Philly in the 7-8 play-in game, and they lost to the Sixers. And everyone was saying, this team is just ready for Cancun. They don't even want to be here. And then they beat Charlotte in the final play-in game to get in and sneak into the playoffs. So I'm not saying Orlando's winning game 7. But I'm saying this team does have some pride, and they do have some fight in them. And I do think that game 7 in Detroit, I expect this Orlando team to show some resolve and try to bounce back from this horrific performance. And all I'll say is the way I see game 7 playing out is one of two ways. Either the Pistons are going to blow them out or the Magic are going to win a close one. Because if it gets to the fourth quarter in Detroit and the Magic are keeping it close, maybe even have a lead by 2 points or 3 points, all the pressure in the world is on the Pistons. Because at that point, don't forget it, they're the number 1 seed in the East. Don't forget it, they were the clear-cut favorite to win this series. So Orlando's got to be reminded of that. They got to be reminded that they've won 3 games in this series already, okay? It's not like they're about to get swept. They've won. They've shown that they can win. They went up to Detroit and they took game 1. So they have done this. So, again, I don't really know which way I would pick, but I'll say this. When we've doubted the Magic and when we thought their season was over and when we thought this team's ready to go home and they gave up on the season, they've bounced back. So I'm a little timid in just giving the Pistons a series win. So we'll see. Either way, this is exciting. Game 7s, yes, please. So in Detroit, the crowd, is going to be nuts. But at the end of the day, like I said, I'm one of those people that likes to zoom out in situations where it seems like the sky's falling. You got to take a breath, see the clear picture. And if you're Orlando, yes, you lost the game. It's one game, okay? It was a horrible game, embarrassing to say the least, but it's one game, and you still get – nobody even thought this series would go 7. And the Magic have a chance to go and knock off the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference if they can replicate what they did in game 1. So they have a chance. We'll see how they respond. But I do know that, they're competitive basketball players, okay? They're NBA players. They're going to have some pride. So we'll see. And again, the pressure is on the Pistons. It really is. And the Pistons honestly should be embarrassed that it took this to win today and that it's taking 7 games to possibly win the series. You're the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, right? So again, I'm not ever going to essentially fully discredit the winning team, but I'm also saying the Pistons, you're lucky too that the Magic kind of barfed on themselves there at the end because it's embarrassing for Detroit that it took this. It was embarrassing for Detroit when they were down 22 at halftime. That's just not how you're supposed to play as the number 1 seed in the East. So again, game 7, hey, anything goes. That's why it's hard to make a game 7 prediction because game 7, anything goes, and like I said, I would not be surprised if the Magic somehow win game 7. Am I going to pick them? No, I'll pick Detroit because I picked Detroit to win this series in 5 games. I think I said 5. I might have even picked Detroit to sweep them, but I think I did even pick Detroit to sweep the Magic, honestly, because it just felt like the Magic didn't want to be there so much, and then they won game 1. So again, I'll pick Detroit to win game 7, but man, oh man, they better. That's the way I'll put it. All right. Shifting gears north of the border in Toronto. Wow. I mean, this Raptors team, I don't know that I've seen a team, I have, but not recently in my mind, where I've seen a team have more grit, more effort, more heart, it seems, to stay alive and to be in a series that they really have no business being in, okay? I mean, Brandon Ingram was horrible in the games that he's played, in the minutes that he played, even in the game that he got hurt, the minutes that he played, he was horrible. At 1 point. And yet they also don't have their starting point guard, hasn't played a minute in this series. He's been out the whole time, Emmanuel Quickly. They've been needing to rely on a rookie to play pretty much 30 minutes a game. He played, how many minutes did Colin Murray-Boyles play today? 40. He played 40 minutes. 35 regulation minutes because this game went into overtime. 40 minutes to a rookie. Jacoby Walter, second-year guard, 43 minutes. Okay. And this team is going against James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley. All right. And viable other guys. Jared Allen is a solid piece. Okay. Max Strus is not just some rando. All right. Dennis Schroeder's coming in off the bench. I mean, Dean Wade, Sam Merrill, Jordan Tyson. I'm not trying to say the Cavs have all-stars down up and down their roster, but, you know, they got veteran players that have been there once or twice. And this is going 7 on an incredible RJ Barrett shot that bounces off the back of the rim, just reminding us of that Kawhi shot in the semifinals of the championship run in Toronto when they beat the Sixers with that Kawhi shot in 7 games. It was epic. It was unreal. And tonight, quite frankly, the Raptors the Raptors were up 11 going into the fourth quarter. And they, similar to Orlando, right? They scored only 12 fourth quarter points. Cleveland scored 23. And the Raptors had the last shot of the game. Jamal Shed, that rim was not too kind in the fourth quarter because it was close and it bounced out essentially. And we were headed to overtime. And at that point, honestly, you could tell Scotty Barnes was exhausted. How many minutes did Scotty Barnes play? Scotty Barnes played a total of 48 minutes. Okay. That's a full day's work. That's it right there, right? How long is a basketball game in regulation? 48 minutes. That's what Scotty Barnes put in. He was exhausted, right? And when they went to overtime, I just thought, man, the Raptors, bless them, but they ain't got it. Okay. They're tired. They've got, you know, all these guys have been playing all these minutes. Their rotation's down to 9 guys because Brandon Ingram ain't even playing no more. They can't rely on, you know, backup guys like Grady Dick or Trace Jackson Davis or all these other guys that don't play anymore. And they somehow got it done, right? So it's unreal that they were able to do that for Toronto. And I just don't understand how Cleveland has allowed this series to turn into a 7-game series. They should have won this series in 5. I predicted Cleveland in 5. And for it to go 7 is really something. It's disappointing for Cleveland to say the least. They better win on Sunday if they want to at all, have some respect around the league because you can't lose to this Raptor team in 7 games. So for this one, I am going to pick Cleveland. I think I picked against Toronto essentially the last 2 games, thinking that the Cavs would just get it done because they're the veteran team, but it hasn't happened. Well, it did happen in game 5, but game 6, they didn't get it done. In game 7, they got to get it done, right? There's too many legacies on the line. I cannot imagine a game where they don't get it done. I will say this. I think Donovan Mitchell, for some reason, there's times in the game where I'm like, why is he on the bench for this long, right? Like, he's your best player. He played 41 minutes here. He played all of overtime, so he ended up playing just 36 minutes in regulation. I get it maybe that you don't want to play your guys with Tom Thibodeau, but screw that, man. It's the playoffs. It's game 6. If Donovan Mitchell needs to play 48 regulation minutes, he better play it. Like, we need to win this game. So I think, and this is the problem now. Now, if you play him, 45 minutes in game 7, is he going to be exhausted because he's not used to putting in those many minutes, in regulation because he's been playing 36. Tonight, he finished with 41 minutes out of a possible 53-minute game because there was 5 minutes of overtime. Harden played 44 minutes. Harden's even older, so I'm not sure why Donovan Mitchell is playing less minutes than James Harden. So I'm confused sometimes about what Cleveland is exactly doing out there with their rotations. I will say Dennis Schroeder comes off the bench and gives them heart and hustle, so at least that's a guy that I expect will play. He played 16 minutes today, and I expect he's, if not the first guy coming off the bench, definitely the second guy because he's been showing that he can play in the playoffs. So we'll see how Cleveland adjusts. But great story for Toronto. Honestly, if the season ends in 7 for them, as I expect it to, this is it's reminiscent. It reminds me of a series that they played against Brooklyn back in the DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry days, where they lost in 7 to a veteran Brooklyn Nets team that had Paul Pierce, they had Kevin Garnett, that big 3 that they had back then. And, and they lost in 7 at home. And it was the first time they had made the playoffs in a while. And even that season, they actually didn't have a great record. But the second half of the season, they made a Rudy Gay trade and they played great afterwards. And it kind of was the start of winning basketball in Toronto, which essentially through the DeRozan trade for Kawhi Leonard, ended up in a championship. And so not that I don't know if this leads to a championship for Toronto, but these playoffs for the Raptors, you've realized that Scotty Barnes is a riser. Scotty Barnes is a playoff riser. I mean, today he played 48 minutes. Incredible defense. That's the thing that is not on the stat sheet. He had 25 points, 7 rebounds, 14 dimes. Okay? But it's the defense that, if you're measuring the defense on the report card, it's an A in defense. So that's like a 25-point game defensively. Like, I don't know how you can't account for that, right? I mean, he had 3 blocks. He's just everywhere. 3 steals for Scotty Barnes. So, you have him as I just think the sky's the limit for him, especially after these playoffs, because, put the ball in his hands and good things happen, right? 14 assists. Like, this guy, I get it that you want to have your traditional point guard, but you can play Scotty Barnes as your point guard, when your actual starting point guard sits and rests, give Scotty the ball, let him run the show, and he can be option 2A as a point guard, right? So incredible game there. And then the last one, which again, not to spend too much time on because it really wasn't much of a game. LA, the Lakers close it out in Houston, 98-78. It wasn't particularly close. The Lakers were up by 5 after the first quarter. They were up 18 at halftime. It was a wrap. And LeBron is incredible. 28 points. Milo, it's okay. Come here. Sorry. Milo wants to have a talk over here. Come here, buddy. Okay, here we go. He can join. 28 points for LeBron James, 7 rebounds, 8 assists, plus 26. I thought this was going to be the LeBron that we were going to get in game 5. Well, it took to game 6. He is a little older, but he stepped up. He knew that this was not a good idea to bring this back to LA because all the pressure would be on the Lakers. And Austin Reeves showed up, 15 points, 7 for 14 shooting. But again, this was all about LeBron. The guy is incredible with what he's doing. I'm not even a big LeBron lover, right? Because I think he's been passive aggressive. I don't think he's been great with teammates in the past when he posts a little frog or something to get rid of them. But who cares? On the court, the guy is still arguably a top 10 NBA player right now at age 41. It's insane. The 41-year-olds don't even really crack rotations anymore. And this guy is the head of the snake still while Luka is injured. And don't get it twisted. He's only not the head of the snake because they have Luka. Because this right here, without Luka, he is still capable of being the head of the snake. So give LeBron incredible love. I mean, this is wild what he's doing. So I respect LeBron for his on-the-court play. He is a fantastic basketball player. It's really wild what he's doing with this Laker team. Now they go on and take on the OKC Thunder. We'll see how that goes. Don't forget, I know everyone's just got the Thunder sweeping the Lakers or it's a quick series or whatever, but the Thunder are missing J-Dub. And I know they have SGA, and that's great, and they have a hugely deep team. But J-Dub was a big part of that championship team, okay? So that's them also missing arguably their second best player. So there's a window there for the Lakers to at least, get a game early on, maybe try to extend the series. And again, I don't know what Luka's status is, but if you get this to 6 and Luka can come back, anything goes because Luka is capable of being the best player on the court, right? Even in the matchup against the Thunder, SGA is the most likely 2-time MVP, back-to-back MVP. But Luka, in any given game, can be the best player on the court. And so again, with the Lakers, if they can just keep pushing it, further out. Again, it seems unlikely that Luka's coming back. I also find it unlikely that this series really goes deep, like 6 or 7 games. I think the Thunder, will get it done in 5. That would be my prediction. But don't sleep on the Lakers to get it to 6. And again, if you get it to 6, it's one of those series where the pressure's all on the favorite. And the last thing I want to talk about as we talk about these games here is the one thing I've noticed is teams like Toronto and these kind of teams that are scrappy, right? And they just give it their all. I commend them. I respect them, but you got to be realistic. And as you guys that watch this know, I'm just very real, very realistic. Even if I root for teams or whatever, or I like a player, I'm always going to keep it real and keep it realistic. The Raptors play like it's the NBA Finals. That's why they're in this series, right? And it's one of those things where you can't measure heart. You can't measure those things. Like I said with Scotty Barnes, 25 points is measurable. You know how many points he scored. But there's no scale on his defense. There's no number necessarily to be like, he got a 75 on defense. So Scottie Barnes' effort and the Toronto Raptors' effort is A+. It's NBA Finals effort. That's the level of effort that they need to keep up with a team like the Cavaliers. That when you watch this game, you can just tell which team is trying a little bit harder. And so when all things go and it becomes a game 7, and that makes the Cavaliers, forces them to have game 7 NBA final type intensity, that's where the talent matches up. And that's where it's up to the talent and who's better. Now, obviously, that's why I'm picking the Cavs, because I think game 7, when your back's against the wall for both teams, they're going to give it their all, right? And so the Cavs are used to the Raptors playing with NBA Finals energy. The Raptors are not necessarily used to the Cavaliers playing with NBA Finals energy. And I think that's the energy they'll bring. Now, there's pressure. That's the wild card. That's why if you're a team like the Cavs and a Cavalier fan, I would be very disappointed in my team that it took you a game 7 to have NBA final energy. And that's the problem. And that's the disappointing part that I have in these good teams and teams that should have done it, right? So like the Lakers, where was this 2 games ago? You won in Houston 98-78. And the effort and the intensity was there from the opening tip. Why? Because they didn't want to go back home for a game 7 where anything goes. And LeBron knew that and the rest of the team knew that. But if they, played with this intensity in game 4, the series would have been over, right? So it's just one of those things that I just think that these teams, they don't lack it, but sometimes they need to be pushed to the brink to bring it. And I don't like that, and I don't respect that. And that's just something that I've noticed with a lot of these teams, and it's just not a good look. And that's the one thing that I will say with the Thunder. I think they're pretty good at bringing that intensity from the get-go, right? And that's why I'm picking them in 5 against the Lakers, because I think that they don't show up to game 1, and maybe it is because they're still a younger team, but they still, I think, have that hunger. They didn't show up to game 1 against Phoenix and let it be a close game and put pressure on themselves. They came in and they shut the door because they were like, nah, we're not going to put ourselves in that situation. We give it our everything from the tip. And I think that they'll keep doing that because they are young and hungry, just like the Spurs, right? And again, teams like Portland, very commendable because they were playing in their series all out. NBA Finals energy, diving on for every loose ball, risking their bodies. LeBron in game 4, if there's a loose ball he could dive into the stands to go get, he might be thinking, I can't get hurt. That way I can be available for game 5. But in game 4, the Rockets aren't thinking that because there is no game 5 if you don't get that loose ball and win this game. So, again, that's something to look out for with these teams, right? So, we'll see who brings it. The Pistons seem to have brought it in, like that NBA Finals energy in the second half. We'll see if they bring it from the get-go in game 7, because if they don't, the Magic are going to bring it. They've been bringing it. And then when they bring it, and if they're up at halftime, now there's that game 7 stress factor, the shaky hand factor, where you can practice 100 3-pointers in an empty gym, but you can't replicate it and practice it with your hand shaking because you're nervous, because you know in your heart that this is game 7 and it's do or die. So we'll see how these teams fare. Excited to watch, game 7 tomorrow. I think it's, the Celtics taking on the Sixers. We'll recap that game tomorrow, and then we'll take a look further ahead at the 2 game 7s that we will have on Sunday. But tomorrow, Boston's at home. They're favored by 8.5. I think that line's a little bit high, especially because the Celtics are favorites. They were favored in the series. I had the Celtics winning in 5 because I thought that they would bring it from the get-go, like the Thunder did against the Suns, and they didn't. They played with their food. Embiid isn't in now, and I just think he's a bad matchup for the Celtics. The 2 worst possible matchups, I think, in the playoffs for the Celtics are the Knicks and the Sixers, or the Sixers and the Knicks, whichever way you want to put it, because both of those teams with Embiid and with Cat have bigs that are offensive weapons, and the Celtics Kata's great. He's been a nice story, but he's not a force like that. So I think this will be close. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Philly upsets Boston, especially if Tatum shows any signs of injury. But I think Tatum's playing, and I think he'll be out there. I'll pick the Celtics, but in a close one, because I think that the Sixers have showed that they know how to play with Boston, and Boston's one of those teams that if the threes aren't going, they struggle. But I believe in Joe Mazzulla being able to tell the team. We've seen this story before with the Celtics. They fall in love with the threes and they don't know how to adjust. But I think Mazzulla knows that, hey, if the threes aren't falling, do something else. Quit jacking them up. You're not gonna get you're not gonna get to 100 points by just jacking up threes that are missing. You gotta adjust and do something else. So I'm excited to see that one tomorrow. Sixers, Celtics in Boston. The crowd's gonna be going crazy. Hey, we'll see. I mean, the way I see it, the Sixers are feeling good. Embiid has been playing great since he's come back. He's well rested because he missed time. I think it'll be a great game. So I'm excited for that one. I'll pick the Celtics, but not by 8.5. I think it'll be closer than that. So we'll see. You guys enjoy Game 7. We'll recap that one, and then we'll preview Game 7 in Detroit and Game 7 in Cleveland on Sunday. Those will be fun, and we'll start looking ahead to the Round 2 series and making predictions for those. So, all right, y'all. Thanks again for watching. Hope you enjoyed the podcast, and leave a comment if you can and if you'd like, and I'll talk to y'all on the next one.